Born and raised in one of the biggest townships in South Africa, eMdatsane in East London, IkhoIntombi Gaushe is a mental health advocate, personal development strategist, radio contributor, and humanitarian. Ikho is a psychology honors student who fell in love with psychology and says she saw a need for mental health education and accessibility within the Black community.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Younger Professionals with me, Unolali. Now, namhlanje, we are talking about the importance of your mental health. Whether you're a corporate cat, an entrepreneur, studying, or simply trying to figure out the next move. Now, with me to help me discuss this topic today is someone who's a mental health activist. Help me welcome Ikho Gaushe. Yay! Thank you so much for being here, sis.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit more about yourself, and I'd really like to know when you got interested in mental health.
Okay, so igama lami ndingu-Ikho Gaushe. I am from Tanzania, East London. This mental health thing, well, the psychology thing, I don't know if it was by chance or by mistake, because when I registered at Rhodes University in my first year, I did a Bachelor of Journalism. So I was like, I want to be a radio hun. I want to be on radio broadcasting. Like, I want to be in the media space. Then at the end of first year, I was like, nope, I'm not carrying on with this journalism thing. So my majors were psychology and journalism. So I dropped journalism in second year. Then I carried on with psychology because I just fell in love with the content in the lectures, man. The readings, like I basically fell in love with psychology. And another thing is I saw a need of mental health education and accessibility in our Black communities, because as I said, Ndisuke eMdatsane, and in the Black communities, there's just so much trauma. There's so much miseducation and a core accessibility to these mental health facilities or knowledge or whatever. So yeah. I was like, I'm studying this thing because I want the Black child, the Black person to be able to heal.
Not only did you just like have that as like an idea or a concept, you actually doing it right now. You're part of the community. You helping the community out. Just talk us through that.
So I've always been where like community development. It's just always been my thing. Yabo. But I was like, okay, how about we do this? Because if I go into the community and help people facilitate healing yabo, then I've done something, you know. And even if I change ubomi bomuntu oyi-1 or 2 in the whole community, like that is enough for me. So what I do is, at the moment, I'm working at a school, so I provide social support, psychosocial support for kids at a school, eMdatsane. I also do motivational talks, awareness talks, and my friends and I have this organization, Near Entrepreneurs Care. My friend was like, you know what, let's see how we can develop an entrepreneur, because where my business can be booming, but if they are go as a person, it's not going to go so great. I was also volunteering as a lay counselor, and it just fulfills me to be able to help to facilitate healing. That is a Black person that cannot afford an expensive psychologist and to seek for help.
I don't want us to talk in general terms. I also want the audience to understand what the Black community's association is to psychology and to mental health. So what are some of those limitations and stigmas that you've come across within our community that you guys are trying to kind of weave that out?
Simkit, you'll remember that psychology is a Western ideology. Ne? Now we are trying to facilitate this Western ideology in the African context. Now, it is very important for me, who is practicing in the African context, to be cognizant of abantu endisebenza nabo and people that I work for. So it is very important that I work according to ababantu. I think one of the limitations would be okokuqala, seeking for help. Psychological help is not a thing that we used to. I was talking to a relative of mine. He's quite umdala kum yabo. So he says that he found it quite difficult to have a therapy and just speak about those raw emotions. Yabona. And so mine is to educate abantu and to really encourage, because there's a very big need for it. We are a traumatized community. There's a lot geographically, our family structures. Okwesibini, it turns as a psychology, ne? Because when I speak to you about into ongai understand you, it's not going to make sense to you. One of my things are trying to make psychological terms accessible to abantu abathetha isiXhosa. So I've been doing my research. I did a Xhosa University. I've been doing my research on how to make it accessible, because if I come to you and I speak jargon, the language I understand you, then the exercise it won't be feasible. Yabona ayizubana results as it won't work, basically, right? So how about we make these terms accessible to abantu abathetha isiXhosa so that they understand uba sithetha ngantoni. We're working in the African context. We should be careful uba misdiagnose abantu, because I could misdiagnose umntu in the Western context, yabona, whereas there's also African spirituality. So it's quite complex. It's very complex. That's why I think it is very important for abantu that practice in the African context to be very cognizant of izinto ezininzi when dealing with this, and not only go with the Western ideology, just going with it, but just to work in this context, because I've seen there's a lot of African psychologists that do sessions. They facilitate le healing sifunayo through different things. Abanye, when there's a need, baqhumisa impepho in their sessions, like it's just very appropriate for African community, and I love that. I love that very much.
I remember speaking to an African healer, and he was just saying, with us, if you're sick, that's just the last stage of the sickness, because you are sick internally, and so it manifests outside, and people need to really be healed from internally to the outside. So it's quite interesting that you would say that. But wouldn't you say that it's kind of oil and water, because there's African spirituality, which is more spiritual than scientific and medicinal, which psychology seems to like lean more to it.
That's why I said it's important for umtu to tread carefully. And where you use your Western ideologies, what you learned in the books and whatnot, ne? But if you feel that there's a need in the session to go there, then if you're obviously comfortable with that and your client is comfortable with that, then yeah, it doesn't even have to be African spirituality, but just to bring it back in the concept of Africanism, because it does not make sense. But I'm not helping you with what you need exactly. We are beings, man. We are African people. We are spiritual people. We are complex people. So if I come to you, it is very important for me to understand how you would like me to help you, how you need to be helped. And especially ngezinto that have to do with internal things, because with City, I have to do surgery, yomzimba, physical. It's very easy because okay, she has to get stitches. Stitches will dissolve after so many weeks. But internal things are very complex because if I am mentally ill, you can't say no, you're gonna heal in about 3 months, you're gonna heal in about a week. So it's very important to work according to needs as a band.
How would you advise someone who has mental health struggles and doesn't quite have the jargon and the support to go about getting help? And secondly, the people around them, how would you advise them to act when it comes to that particular person?
I think must just do what works for them. And it's going to depend on how severe it is. But the most important thing is to seek for help. Place I'd refer you is to seek counseling. Seek counseling that provide free counseling. Is the provider online and telephone counseling. That is free. So seek for that. If you can afford a psychologist, see one. Seek for help. But if you're not comfortable with that, speak to your friends, man. Speak to people that you trust. But again, it might go south. But a professional is obliged to listen to you. That's what they get paid for. They are binded by confidentiality. So awuzozivindaba zakho we sit in. Kanye kuthethwe indaba zakho sit in. But if you're comfortable and you have people that you trust, please, by all means. But the most important thing is that you seek help, is that you speak, is that you don't suffer alone. As Funukuti, Zimkita behleli naye last week and she looked very happy.
That's always the case.
That. You see, those are the things that we don't want. So I beg people to speak. That's why I think education about this mental health thing is very important. Abantu, I'm going to beg them to be kind to themselves. Because you might be frustrated by it's okay. It's fine. Then I'm going to go to the people around you. It's very important to surround yourself with supportive people. In general, as a person, you don't have to be umtokowayo. But make sure that abantu that are around you are supportive, because life is very vile. And for those people, it's important that you hold space for your people. Say, for example, we're friends, right? And you're not okay. Or rather, when we want to go out, you don't want to go out. You're like, no, friend, I'll pass. Claim for the next 2 gatherings, Uzimkita, she doesn't want to go out. One of those type of things. Ask, check on your friends. Are you fine? Check on your people. Hold space for your people. If Uzimkita says, no, I'm not fine, but I don't want to talk about it, don't probe. Give her space. Allow her space to deal with whatever she's dealing with. And I think the most important thing is for us to hold a safe space for each other. Because if I hold a safe space for Wena as a person in my circle or whatever, uzawukwazi ukuthi, friend, I'm not good. Have boundaries, because if you keep pouring and pouring, go aim to go, uzawugoa mdase. But if it's okay if sometimes you don't have space to hold for abantu, it's okay. It's fine. So those where boundaries are healthy friendships, healthy boundaries. So if I say friend, like I'm not in a good space, to be there for you, you won't be offended. I have a friend. We have this thing of friend, are you in a good space to listen?
Good space.
Yeah. Yes. And I've made it a point now that I don't check on Umdu if I don't have space to hold for you emotionally. If I don't have the emotional capacity to hold for you, then I won't check up on you. Because if I say, hi, Zimkitunjani Ntombi, how have you been? It could go, no, I'm good. or ndiyagoa, then I have opened that conversation and I don't have the ability to hold that space for you. Yabon? So now I leave you lingering with those feelings, which isn't fair on you. Yabon? So I have found it to be very helpful. Then I'll check on you when I'm feeling fine, because then I'll be able to listen to you then. And this will go. I'm not gonna drown. Yabon. So I think it's also important to have those healthy boundaries as woman man. And just hold safe spaces in our circles, guys. Like if the woman to check on wena, check up on wena, you don't feel like Ikho doesn't want to be my friend anymore. Yabon. Leave leeway. But it's not that she's being a funny person. Life is busy, life is hectic, life is sometimes unkind to us. Yabon. So now we check on La Chomi that is always checking up on you. Check on those strong friends.
I'm always chatting to people that are like young professionals and they're in corporate or they're entrepreneurs, all of the success, according to society. And we know corporate culture can be very toxic. So how do young professionals in their workspaces go about achieving a healthy mental life balance?
I can definitely say it's difficult to have that, to achieve that balance. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. Ne? It needs work from you as well. So it's very important to have a life outside of work. Ne? Like don't attach everything to work yako, right? Because uzawugoa. Secondly, if you're not coping, or because the work environments, there's a lot that could contribute to stress. It's high pressure, it's it's racism, let's be honest. It's sexism, it's a lot.
Syndromes, superiority complexes,
like it's a lot. So it's very important to be aware of yourself. Because for example, let's say you are in corporate, right? And we are stressing emsebenzini. If you're not aware of yourself, you won't catch as a manifestations the stress or the anxiety or whatever. But it's important rules food. But no, man, why is this happening? Why am I getting sick? Why is this happening? So that you're able to pick it up, so that you're able to seek for help. As corporate companies zinazo wellness departments. I know these big companies have them. Or if stressor, seek help. It's important to have life outside of work. Right? So that now Zaibona from a different perspective. The saddest thing about stress is that you spend 8 hours of 5 days at work. So if it is a toxic environment for you, then uzawugoa. And like internal conflicts, like your imposter syndrome and those type of things. So I think is when you are aware, or when you see those type of things, you work on them bit by bit. I suffer from imposter syndrome, and people get so shook because they're like, Undwebil. I'm like, yes, but I suffer from imposter syndrome, but I've met people. I think I'm blessed to have people that motivate me to try and work on those. I work on it bit by bit, man, and you build confidence. It takes building. You build it. You build your self-confidence. You tell yourself that you deserve to be in those spaces. You're on corporate because you studied to be there. You worked hard to be there. That spoke for you. So you deserve it. Affirm yourself. Have people that affirm you. Challenge yourself. Now I think I'm promoting mental health. So posting on socials, I'm not a big social media person. And posting on socials, even being on socials, the anxiety, I'm like but I try. I challenge myself. I'm not hard on myself. I'm taking it one day at a time. I post, dinga jongi, ne likes. I'm trying. I'm challenging myself. I am getting out of my comfort zone.
We've seen an increase in mental health issues connected to social media. So what's your stance on that, and how do you think we can remedy it?
Girl, especially that other app, and I used to log onto that app and I was like, why is everyone rich? Why does everyone have money? Like, like, what am I not doing? What is going on? Like, hey, but I had to step back. I think in this day and age, especially when consuming isn't all that are like a social media and yonke peer pressure, because the peer pressure, to be honest, is to know yourself, be grounded, be sure of yourself. It doesn't mean you're cocky or sure of yourself, okay? Because when I see Intangazam posting their apartments, posting their cars, posting their achievements and whatnot, I'd have to remind myself that it's okay. Like, it's not like now I'm not doing anything. I'm chilling and not doing anything. I know what I'm working towards. I know where I come from, and I know where I am, and I know how much I've worked hard to be where I am currently. So it's very important to be sure of yourself, so that whether it be engaging in activities as a or living a life that you can't afford, that will stress you, because you're going to live a life that you can't afford. All the people you're trying to please don't care. They don't care. They don't care, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very important not to fall for that peer pressure. Okwesibini, I call this social media etiquette. Social media is very draining nowadays. It's problem after problem after problem after problem. I'm not saying that it is a problem to be aware of things that are happening around the world, but it can be very draining, right? So, ibana social media etiquette, you look out when you feel like it's too much, because it is, it's a lot. It can be triggering. You can be triggered now, and it can trigger so much inside of you, right? And if you know these are examples, because it can be very, very triggering to other people watching as well. But I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. It can be triggering in so many ways, man, and it's just not nice. It's very draining, and we're just trying to stay positive in these times. Hey, like, all we can do is try. At this point, all we can do is try. So I think it's not that you're being oblivious to his intentions, but when you feel like it's too much, then log off. Take time to yourself. Take time to return to yourself. Take time to just hold space for yourself.
What the problem is in our community, especially when it comes to being a Black woman, we constantly have to be strong. We wear that badge of strength so much that it's hard to deal with our mental health. And that's where you get the stigmas. That's where you get the name calling. And it's like, it's okay. We can be great Black women and have mental health issues simultaneously.
The most important thing is that we acknowledge that age is very critical. It's important that we work hard now. You chase those dreams now. You network now. But in the midst of everything, in the midst of trying to achieve everything, it's important not to forget the midst of our beings. I've been at home. I've been on holiday for the past few weeks, and I've been constantly asking myself about Ikho. Who are you apart from everything that you have achieved or tried to achieve, and everything that you are? So constantly trying to pursue yourself. So it's important that we constantly try to pursue ourselves as much as we try to pursue everything else that we are trying to pursue. Very important to be kind to ourselves, to be to ourselves what we want everyone else to be. Sure. So if you want a supportive environment, be supportive to yourself. If you want an affirming environment, be affirming to yourself.
Thank you so much for coming, man. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, until next time, from me, Unolali, it's goodbye.